Hi everyone, it's John from What Up. Welcome back to another video and happy release week. Yes, the first 3 episodes of Season 3 of The Wheel of Time are live right now, and we're doing videos all week on them. So, if you love The Wheel of Time as much as I do, if you're as excited about the show as I am, or if you just want to keep up in the news, consider making us your home for Wheel of Time news. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and of course, tell all your friends. Now, we're reviewing Episode 3 of Season 3's Seeds of Shadow today. And I want to remind you folks at home how I do my reviews. So first off, we do a spoiler-free section where we talk about the episode in a very general format. Then I dive into spoilers afterwards up to Book 5 because that's about where we are at in the show. So spoilers for both the show, the episode, and the book series. And I want to remind you folks that I do not give extra points for how well things are adapted or take points away for changes to the source material. So I rate this show standalone. So I essentially, on the merits of on its own merits, is what I rate the show as. So if I was reviewing any other movie or any other television show, it'd be the same thing. There are a lot of things in this episode that are drawn directly from the book series that I would love to give this extra points for, especially one particular scene that is probably one of my favorite scenes in the first few books, but I'm not doing that. And I'm also not taking away points for any changes from the source material. Just getting that out there. A lot of people have asked me questions about that the last couple of weeks that are new to the channel. That is what we do here. We don't take that into consideration when I give my scores. So this particular episode is, again, another episode where they slowed down, they spent a lot of time with the characters, and they really built the groundwork for the rest of the season and the world. And that is something the show has been sorely needing for every season. Seasons 1 and Season 2 suffered from the fact that they tried to get to those high-value scenes. They rushed through the character development, they rushed through the slow stuff, they tried to make everything exciting, everything action. And in some cases it worked, it really did, but in a lot of cases, people suffered. So characters such as Matt and Perrin suffered greatly during the first 2 seasons. They didn't spend near enough time with them, talking about their motivations or doing things with them. And again, there was other problems there when they had to recast Matt Cawthon and whatnot, but they didn't do a good job in building the world or building the plot lines for those 2 seasons or in building up the character development and interpersonal relationships between people. This season, complete 180. It's almost as if the writing crew was like, all right, we're really going to buckle down and we're going to make this show shine. We're seeing a lot of tender, intimate moments between characters on screen. You're seeing a lot of world building. You're seeing a lot of interpersonal relationships being formed. You're seeing a lot of character development from characters that really did need it the last couple of seasons. And you're also seeing world building happen. You're seeing the plot being laid for the rest of the season and beyond. This groundwork is super important. A lot of modern streaming companies right now, so Netflix, Disney, Tubi, Crave, Sony, it's not just Prime, but all of them suffer from rushing to get to those high-value scenes, or what they consider high-value scenes, because they think that people need to see spectacle over substance. And that is not always the case. Spectacle is great, don't get me wrong. In this particular episode, there were a couple of things done really well when it came to spectacle, but it was balanced by all of the character development. For example, right now on Netflix, there's a new movie called The Electric State. It has everyone in it. And when I say everyone, I do mean everyone. You name a famous person, they're in this movie. It suffers from a terrible job of it being written. It's just written terribly. It has no direction. It is an awful movie. But it's because it was all spectacle over substance. And a lot of streaming services want people to, be hooked into watching certain scenes, so they rush to get them. This particular episode, the acting in it, especially in the slowed down moments, absolutely chef's kiss. It was amazing. I've said this before, the acting in the show has saved the show on a number of occasions. In this season, especially in this episode, it's not saving the show, it's enhancing it. The dialogue and the writing, again, there's many things pulled directly from the book series in the show on screen that you have to watch it a couple times and you're like, I kind of recognize that line. And then you realize, oh, that's directly from the book series. And they meld it so well. I said the same thing about episode 2. I think it's going to be a recurring theme this entire season. The scenes they're doing in this, there's a lot of, like I said, scenes between characters, and the editing between those scenes, it doesn't seem jumbled. So I've read a couple of articles where people who maybe don't really like multiple things happening at once have reviewed the show, and they're saying that, well, I don't like the fact that there's 3 or 4 different plot lines going on and they're jumping between them. It's not super fun. Letting you know, as a book reader, that's what happens in the books. But just as a show watcher, I enjoy the fact that they're skipping between different storylines and they're building these characters up. And they're doing slow moments in each of these storylines mixed in with high drama or high value moments, such as fight scenes or action, in the right way. The editing between them is so tight, they're not wasting a single moment of this particular episode. The VFX, again, the special effects in this episode, top notch. I don't like CG, I really don't. And the way they're doing the channeling this season is way better than they've done in any other season. The way they're doing the shadow spawn, the way they're doing different elements that are on screen, they're not relying heavily on CG for things they can use practical for, and the things they have to use CG for, it's done very, very well, and it's highly polished. Camera work. Camera work in this episode, again, the camera work in the entire season so far has been really good. The action sequences, the way they're filmed and framed, it's tight, right in on the characters. You're not seeing a wide open space where they're trying to get the vistas of the views in at the same time. They are focusing on what's important in each of these scenes, and it's almost like a completely different crew is doing the camera work and the cinematography for this particular season, and that is something I've seen other reviewers also say. It's widely different and very good. So this entire episode, again, a lot of setup, a lot of building blocks for the plot line for the entire seasons, a lot of character development. I personally love those sorts of things. I really do. And just enough action and just enough high drama in this as well, where you're hooked and kept in, but it's not overpowering. So this episode, I've given it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I already gave the entire season a 9 out of 10, so you can see where I'm going here with my reviews. There's not going to be, well, I guess I can say there's not a single low-reviewed episode this season, where in season 1 and season 2, I had a couple of them that were sitting at 5.5 and 6 out of 10 because they were really not that great. This season, they're all pretty good. So now, let's bring up our handy-dandy little spoiler hand here. So we're going to spoil things now up to book 5. So that's The Eye of the World Through the Fires of Heaven in the Wheel of Time series for Robert Jordan. We're also spoiling up to episode 3 of season 3 of the Wheel of Time show. So if you haven't seen the show or read the books, from here on out, we're going to spoil things from both mediums. All right, folks. So The Forsaken. The cold open for every single episode so far has been just spot on. Cold open for episode 1, pure action. Cold open for episode 2, again, shock value and pure action. Cold open for episode 3, this is a little bit different. There's not a ton of action here. It's all slowed down interpersonal relationships being formed between the Forsaken. And I want to say that Samael is stealing the show for me. He is my new favorite Forsaken. When I've read the book series, Demandred has always been my favorite, 100%. I don't know if we're going to get him in the show or not. He's been mentioned, but whether it remains to be seen if we see him or not. But Samael, oh my God. Like, such a great performance and a perfect Samael. The anger, the rage at Lucerne, it is spot on. And again, Layla Costa as Maghedian, that woman can act. Oh my goodness. I couldn't think of a more perfect actress for the Spider. Her interaction with Robin in the opening, like the cold open of this particular episode, was perfect. It gave a lot of information to people who maybe haven't read the books. These Forsaken, they're not working in concert with one another. They are not a well-oiled machine. They are infighting. They are getting after each other. They are likely going to try to kill each other and thin the herd a bit before the day of the return comes and nae'blis is announced. A lot of information in this. The CG for the channeling in this opening sequence, spot on. I had a couple of people mention to me that, well, it didn't really look like it's described in the books where the line opens and things open up. Honestly, folks, I honestly think that they're using the true power here. It looks to me exactly like they're using true power for the traveling for this, and I loved every moment of it. Feel free to let me know in the comments down below if you think they're not using the true power for this. We didn't see the saw in their eyes. It wasn't a focus, but again, we've seen Lanfear use the true power a number of times already within the show, so we know the Forsaken likely have access to it because they're Forsaken, at least for the show environment. The interrogation and the investigation scenes between Elaine, Nynaeve, and the two Black Aja members, they were perfect because it was just the right amount of Scooby-Doo. So skipping back and forth, kind of playing them against each other, also while like digging into their belongings and seeing different things from the rooms. It didn't drag on too long within the episode. It was just enough of those sequences to be able to set up the fact that, yeah, we know where we're going, we know what we have to do, and these are the reasons behind it. They could have just skipped all of that, said it happened off screen, and then they go to Tenchiko afterwards. That's something they could have done. It personally would have suffered, I think, for that. I like the time spent setting it up, but they didn't spend too much time with that. This entire episode was a lot of politics, was a lot of maneuvering, especially with Elida, the Red Sisters, and the Amerlin. I like seeing the Hall of the Tower, seeing the Amerlin, seeing the Sitters and the Highest of the Red, all of them kind of maneuvering against one another, especially Elida. Shora Gishlu, oh my goodness, she is spot on perfect as far as I'm concerned as Elida. And the way she is just kind of pushing the envelope in little tidbits here and there. She's not doing it over the top. Great acting by her, as well as everyone else. And the Two River scenes too. So you're seeing some things that are elements from the book series that are really, really important bits of things. Natty Cawthon and the girls being caged in the White Cloak camp. The acting from Natty, from the girls, from the White Cloaks themselves. You can see Dane kind of not liking what they're doing, but understanding it's something that they do as White Cloaks. In the way Perrin and Fael interact. We get to see finally them interact for a fair bit in this episode. Fael, Isabelle Bucari, top-notch acting from her. She's a relatively new actress. She didn't have many projects under her belt before she joined the Wheel of Time. I actually broke her casting a couple of years ago, and at that point she only had, I think, 3 or 4 credits to her name on IMDb. She is phenomenal as Fael. I couldn't have picked a better person for it. And the way that her and Perrin are interacting, just wonderful. And the last thing I want to say is the way they ended this episode. So the endings of episodes 1 and 2 were important, but not near as important, in my opinion, as the ending in episode 3. Because 1 and 2, their endings, you could immediately binge and go on to the next episode. So you finished 1, you could go on to 2. You finished 2, you can go on to 3. So they were not a hook or a cliffhanger or anything that is going to keep people interested for next week. It's not a huge deal. And that does not mean that the ending has to be a battle. It has to be anything like wild. What it means is it has to get something that people are going to be talking about. You want a water cooler moment at the end of an episode to have people discussing it throughout the week leading up to the next episode. That's just smart writing and smart TV. They did that by having Malkedian be the servant to the Black Sisters in Tenchiko. Now, if you're a book reader, you know that is something that happens within the book series. She is there. She does play it being a servant, and she does bide her time and eventually reveal herself in the books. In the show, if you're a pure show watcher and you've never read the book series, this is kind of a big shock to you, because here's a Forsaken pretending to be a servant and watching all these members of the Black Aja sort of kind of play at being Forsaken. I mean, they're trying to be what they're... I don't want to call them mentors, because that doesn't really happen. But for the Dark Friends, there's not really mentors and mentees, because they're all kind of fighting each other for rank and for purpose. But you get to see this, and she's watching the other Black Aja, and you're not sure how that's going to turn out. So when it kind of ends in that moment with Malkedian being the servant, it's kind of a wild thing for, I think, for people who have not read the books but have seen the show, because they understand, they recognize she is a Forsaken. She is a big bad. And these folks don't know this. And they're saying some out-of-pocket stuff around her. And she's just kind of taking it. And what's going to happen to them? Because you've already seen how wildly violent she can be at the end of season 1. The end of season 2 when she was first introduced. The end of episode 1 when she was creating the Gray Man. Just some crazy stuff. Really good to see. So again, here's where I want some input from you folks. So if you have not read the books, this is where I want some information from you folks. What did you think of this episode? Did you like how it ended? Is that something you picked up on? That's a Forsaken, and you had questions about that? And I know a lot of you out there at this point are going, well, John, you haven't mentioned your favorite scene yet. Your favorite scene is in this episode. I have not, and I'm saving that just for the very tail end of the video. But I want to know what you folks think if you haven't read the books. And if you've read the books, I do want to know how you thought that certain scenes were pulled directly from the books and put on screen, how well that was done. There are people out there, and there are people that are still commenting on these videos that just really don't like the 3rd season, and that's totally fine. It's absolutely fine if you don't like it. But let me know why. What changes from books to show are really in the way of you folks liking season 3, because there's a lot of similarities, there's a lot of stuff there, truncated things, amalgamated things for sure, but so far this season is way better than seasons 1 for seasons 2 in showcasing show stuff. So now, review's done, gave it a 9, talked about my favorite scenes in the episode, barring one, which we'll get to in just a second, talked about the things I liked and didn't like. So now we're going to get into the scene. As far as I'm concerned, the best scene in the entire episode, Gowan, Glad, and Matt. Donald Finn as Matt Cawthon is a treat to behold. He is an excellent actor. He's also, if you folks don't know, a really good singer. He was played one of the leads in Hadestown, which is a wildly popular musical, and he just knocked it out of the park. He is embodying all of the aspects, in my mind, of Matt Cawthon. I'm rereading the series again right now, and especially early book Matt. Early book Matt doesn't do a ton. Early book Matt is kind of crappy, kind of introverted, kind of being like angry the whole time because of the dagger. It's when he's healed from the dagger that he really starts to come out of his shell. And that initial versions of Matt that we've seen at the very beginning of The Eye of the World, and then again after he gets healed in Dragon Reborn, Donald Finn is just knocking that version of Matt right out of the park. When he gets up in Gowan and Glad's faces, he's like 2 marks each. That's, just absolutely amazing. And the way he handles himself, the way how shocked Gowan and Glad look when they're fighting, I love that. They both thought it was going to be easy. And in the book series, this was a similar scene. It happened more publicly. There were a lot of other people around, so we did get to see the scene where Gowan and Glad were sort of showing off in episode 2, and it was showing off. They were not training. They were not taking it seriously. They were showing off for an audience. That is when in the book series that Matt has to fight with them, and Matt's sick. Matt's having a hard time, but he still just rubs the crap out of the two of them. I liked the fact that they did change it so they could allow the two Andorans to show off as their introduction to the fandom, and then later on slowed down at night. Just Nynaeve is the only member of the audience, and Matt kicks the crap out of them there. I do like that they did that because it allowed them to introduce the Andoran nobles and kind of build them up a little bit before Matt knocks them down in quite a few pegs. But again, an absolutely excellent scene. I like the sword work in this one. I like the choreography, especially the staff work. Really, really well done. Camera work in it as well. Perfect. And just the sheer audacity and exasperation expressed on Gowan and Glad's faces. So Luke Featherston and Callum Kerr. Excellent job by both of them. I think they're both playing their characters really, really well. Same as Donald Finn. And this whole scene was my favorite scene. Again, didn't give it extra points. I would have given this a 32 out of 10 if I could, just because the scene was in it. Didn't give the episode extra points because of it, but I gave the episode a 9. Now, you're probably asking, John, and I probably should have said this in the spoiler-free section, why not a 10? Well, where's that last point? Well, while the episode was great at building the groundwork, while it was very good at building interpersonal relationships, while the camera work, the acting, the dialogue, the SFX and VFX were very good, there were a couple of aspects of this episode where maybe, just maybe, they could have edited things a little bit tighter, left a little bit less of a scene, so they spent a little bit too much time with Elida in certain scenes, when they could have had just a bit more of the reaction to what she was saying and doing with the Red Sisters. Again, not massive complaints, very, very minor things in my mind. And again, the end sequence when Malkedian was there with the Black Sisters and Tenchiko, I thought was a really good water cooler moment and a really good hook for the next week, but it could have been a bit more. They could have added just another little bump up there. You got to remember, you want people talking in between episodes. And while it was a good ending, I thought it totally was, and it would get certain people talking, if people aren't paying a whole lot of attention to the show and you didn't recognize that she was a Forsaken and that she was wandering around after them, that could be a missed moment. They had just bumped it up a little bit more from that, you would get full marks from me. Either way, 9 out of 10 is a very, very respectable score, a very high score. In fact, in the first 2 seasons, very few episodes ever got 9 out of 10, let alone 10. But yeah, very, very, very good episode. One of my favorite scenes between Gowan Glad and Matt. I think there's 2 scenes in the book series, one of them we'll never see, that happened within the first 4 books that are my favorite. this fight between Gowan, Glad, and Matt is one of them. The other one is when Rand fell into the Rose Garden and met them all for the first time, met the Andor and royal family for the first time. We won't see that, unfortunately. That's been kind of cut and waylaid, but I'm happy that we got the other scene. So let me know in the comments down below what everybody thought of the episode. How would you rate it? That's the question I haven't asked yet in any of my reviews. Let me know down below. If you had to give it a 1 to 10 rating, I gave it a 9. What would you folks give it? All right, so keep watch tomorrow for my Easter egg video. We're down to 1 video a day now. We did 2 for the last, I think, 3 or 4 days. It's a little bit of a breakneck pace for my channel. I'm not used to that, so we're going to go back down to 1 video a day. We'll do the Easter egg video tomorrow. We'll do the breakdown video on Tuesday. So the Easter egg video, we walk through the entire episode, find out little tidbits that are important to book readers to talk about them. The breakdown video, differences between books and show. After that, I have probably 2 news videos to do, which is kind of wild. I'll make it into one really big one. A lot has happened in the last week, so we'll have a big news video on Wednesday. There's likely going to be some sort of Walt Wednesday release as well, and I'll do a second video about the upcoming episode next week, because there is a coming next on Prime right now that showcases some scenes from episode 4. We'll talk about that here as well. That's also going to happen, so I might have to do 2 videos on Wednesday. News video and the upcoming video. But other than that, we're going to try to do 1 video every single day until the show is done. So I look forward to that from you. Thank you so very much for sticking with me here to the very end, folks. Here's to many more.